Hi, I'm Faraz Khan, and welcome to Drag and Drop Low Code Unplugged, the podcast where we explore the game changing impact of low code in software development. Join me in insightful conversations with IT leaders and passionate low code enthusiasts who are at the forefront of this digital evolution. Together, we'll explore how early adoption of low code is giving businesses a competitive edge on a global scale. We'll discuss its impact on software development, dissect its role in transforming businesses, and uncover the ways in which it's reshaping career trajectories. So, whether you're a seasoned IT professional or a curious enthusiast, be sure to tune in as we share success stories and unravel the mysteries of low code. Subscribe now and stay tuned for a front row seat to the revolution that's shaping the future of technology. So, let's go. Hi, Kevin. How are you? Thank you for being a guest in Drag and Drop.
Hi, Faraz. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. You were referred to me, and when I kind of looked into your background and on your LinkedIn, I thought you'd definitely be someone I'd be keen to speak to and find out a bit more about, one, your journey, but two, all the things you're doing.
Sure.
But it'd be good to, for those that don't know you, a bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Kevin Ferreira. I'm the Mendix Product Owner at Jabil. And for anyone that doesn't know Jabil, Jabil provides a comprehensive, scalable, tailored engineering, supply chain, and manufacturing solutions to over 400 of the world's largest brands. We have over 50 years of experience across industries, operations spanning across 100 sites with about 140,000 employees.
Wow. That's amazing. And, you personally, how did you kind of get into technology? Is that something that started, was that something you always wanted to get into, life before Jabil? What did that look like?
Yeah, my dad said, "Oh, you should go into computer science," back in, said when the dinosaurs were roaming around, right? And I said, "Okay, fine." I graduated, and there was sort of like a downturn, so no one was hiring tech. I think I worked for a bank for a little bit. But I basically really started technology. I joined Travelers in the insurance industry many years back, and then I switched over to manufacturing and aerospace and defense. Did a lot of traveling, did a lot of SAP back then, and then an opportunity for Jabil came up back in 2010. I moved down here for Jabil, and I've been here ever since. No looking back,
Amazing.
right?
Amazing. Great location, right? So it's also a great location to be in.
Yeah, it's not bad,
Can't
right?
complain, yeah. And can you kind of tell me a bit more about, obviously you're a low code customer, you're using Mendix. Can you talk me through, kind of how low code came into the picture, what made it a viable option for Jabil?
Okay. So, I guess about 2022, my boss at the time said, "Hey, do me a favor." Right. I thought, help me with my dry cleaning or something, something kind of silly, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Do this low code thing." I'm like, "What? This is, I was doing SAP things, had an SAP team, and this is like completely different." But I said, "Okay, sure." It's a priority, right? And it was a priority from our operational partner. They had said to IT leadership, "We want low code. We think we can do things faster. We want to partner with you guys to do low code." And senior and executive leadership agreed to it. My boss suggested I run the project or run the program, and we went forward. So it was really a request from operations. "Hey, we want you guys to try this." IT said, "Okay, but we have to be partners. We got to do this 50-50 because it's not going to work if only one side, takes the lead." And we've been going that way ever since.
Yeah. Had you kind of come across low code, or did you know about low code prior to that, or were you
Nothing? I was fully SAP, head down, and I, even AI wasn't back then, right? It was like, okay, so I went to Google, searched a bit, said, okay, yeah, it seems like something in my wheelhouse, I can handle it, and went forward.
Yeah. And what was the decision-making process behind? Obviously, there's multiple vendors, how did you kind of land on Mendix as your low-code vendor?
Yeah, so that was a process, right? That was a journey in itself. So, this is a big decision, right? So it can't be just one person or one kind of organization making that decision. So because of the numbers involved and the decision-making process, IT ops, we went to procurement, and our global procurement department helped us. We gathered requirements. We built a full RFQ, and we put a search out there in the market. We had done some research with Gartner and Forrester to understand who some of these industry leaders are, who the market players are. We got a number of those that responded back to the RFQ, with interest to do so. We spent a lot of months interviewing partners, talking to the different companies, seeing, what was viable. Some of our existing kind of technology partners suggested certain companies also, hey, we work really well with this company and you should take a look, right? Interviewed everybody, did a full RFQ, rated everybody, ranked everybody, and Mendix came out on top, right? So we decided to move forward with Mendix. We said, let's do a proof of concept. Let's do 2 weeks. We did a proof of concept with Mendix and one other kind of niche boutique company. Head-to-head, 2 weeks. We did an actual use case from operations from the shop floor. I think it was an RMA, kind of like a return product process. And over the 2 weeks, again, we scored both vendors over, I think, 20 different criteria. End of the 2 weeks, Mendix came out on top, by far the winner. And, aside from all of the, the ranking criteria and the rubric of, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5, whatever, one thing that really shone through very, very clearly was the people connection, the people support from Mendix. We're a global company. We were running a global POC. We had a team, I think, in Mexico, Europe, and I think Asia working on this, basically full time. And anytime we hit a bump, if we called Mendix, didn't matter where the person was, they picked up the phone. I have not seen the people connection ever die off. If anything, it just gets stronger.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because a lot of customers I speak to, when I talk about this process with them, they actually talk about, because most people expect the answer to be around one technology had certain features over the other and things like that. But a lot of people, majority of them, will say to me that it was the connection they felt with the team. That kind of, obviously the technology is the bonus and it's great, but it's also the team dynamics and, that partnership feeling, which is what drove them to kind of go in that direction.
Yeah.
And, in your role, you're global product owner for Mendix, what was your, initial vision and, how has that evolved in the last 4 years?
So, I think the vision early on, so IT or ops comes and says, hey, we want this thing. Okay, so we got to build a vision. Like what's the basis for this? It's, well, we want to be able to deliver faster speed to market, reduce our costs. And how do you do that? Because if you don't have to use IT all the time, if you can enable your own people, you can really start driving some numbers. So it was sort of like, reduce our costs, faster speed to market. We want to enable our people with the tools, get those tools as close to the idea makers as possible, and let them develop and bring their ideas to market and deliver value quickly. Over on year 4 now, I think, we really want to start focusing on kind of curation. Like, how do we go further, right? How do we continue to enable people? How do we curate our private marketplace of components, starter apps, whatever it may be, so that we can continue to drive value, we can continue to go faster, right? I think this is the next big step for us as a global COE, as regional COEs, how we continue to drive down that governance, continue to drive the vision, and enable our people with, composable enterprise, building blocks, however you want to think about it. We really want to curate a marketplace that becomes a one-stop shop for anyone and everyone to say, hey, I have an idea. Does it exist already? Oh, here it is. I can use it as it is today. Or no, it doesn't exist. It's going to be helpful. I have all the pieces to put it together and deliver it quickly.
Yeah. And you mentioned your global COE. How did you go about, structuring it, setting it up for governance and, kind of for success?
We didn't really go in with a lot of concepts or kind of like wish lists of what we wanted. But we had one kind of directive from our VP. He said, don't put a lot of bureaucracy in place. Don't make a lot of gates. Keep it simple. Make it easy for people, right? And we're still along that theme of enabling people. If it's easy, people should be able to do it. They'll pick it up. But if there's too many hurdles, it's demotivating. So, working with our operational partner, we said, why don't we just make a global COE that ultimately just provides governance and framework, and we'll build regional COEs that align very nicely or directly with our operational view of the world. So ops at the time, and still to this day, said, okay, we have Americas, we have EU, we have North and South Asia, and we just put COEs in those 4 locales. Operations helped to find operational people that were motivated and empowered and would be kind of champions of this, put those in place. IT provides a similar counterpart role. So you got 2 people to lift and shift or, kind of partner and pick things up. And we've gone with it ever since. And I think now it's really, okay, continue to empower the regions, let the central step back a little bit, kind of blend into the background and just be that governing body or provide best practice, help be a tiebreaker in the event of, questions or concerns, and let the regions start enabling down to site level so that the sites can take this further.
Yeah, that's interesting. And, can you walk me through, the implementation process, some key things you've built, and also, obviously no technology is perfect. There's going to be challenges, what challenges you've had, how you've kind of overcome them, and obviously some wins and some milestones.
Sure. So we started with, at the time, I think Mendix was calling it the app factory approach. I think this has moved into like digital execution framework or digital execution process. And basically it was like an 18-week engagement with Mendix Expert Services to help us set up the platform. And we picked a few key applications that should be easy to develop and deliver value quickly. So we did a value workshop where we identified, low complexity, high complexity apps, made a decision on what 4 would deliver value quickly, worked with the Mendix Expert Service team to deliver those applications, while at the same time, we sort of started to build up the governance, build the process, build the intake process, start to build out what our portfolio should and would look like. And then after 18 weeks, see where we are. I think all the apps had gone into production at that time, or were very close to. And then we were on our own. Mendix departs and we take over full time. And at that point, we built out our full kind of portfolio review process, the whole ideation and intake of what makes sense to deliver in Mendix. And we watched it grow ever since. I think, we've had a couple. I think the biggest win that, we should highlight is just the partnership. Like we started the journey with, hey, it's going to be a partnership between ops and IT, and we still have that partnership, right? They're still actively engaged with us. We still actively engage with them. And that's what makes it work, right? Because operations brings the ideas, the needs, the requirements. And as long as it makes sense, at this point, we've proven, hey, you can do this in Mendix. It's governed. It's controlled. And as long as you follow our best practices, our guidelines, you can hit the goals. Faster speed to market, faster value.
Yeah, amazing. And, you guys achieved, when I was kind of reading through and researching, you achieved significant cost avoidance. What drove that and how was that measured for Jabil?
Really active engagement of portfolio managers and product owners, right? I mean, you can't do this without product owners that have a clear vision for what they want their applications, their products to do, right? So even at the start of ideation, when someone comes in and says, hey, I have an idea, I want to do this thing, they might not even realize they're going to become a product owner. And sometimes they know already, they've been through this, they've done it multiple times. But, in that portfolio review board meeting, if the potential product owner doesn't have a clear vision, if they don't know what they want the app to ultimately deliver, or they have, a project plan that's taking 12 months, we'll say, hey, we need to work on this a little bit. Let's focus the vision. Let's make a smaller MVP. Let's deliver something quickly that will bring value to your users. And then we continue to ideate. We continue to evolve the application. Because without strong product ownership, without a clear vision of what that app or that product should do, you're going to waste time, right? And the longer things kind of bubble up in development or get stuck in stage, the less value you're achieving at the end. So, we always want to make sure at that intake, we're going to be able to deliver something quickly.
Yeah, yeah. And you've launched, over 100 apps, to production, how did you prioritize those and scale and manage the delivery?
So we don't prioritize, right? That's not our
Okay.
job from an IT perspective. We want ops to prioritize. We want ops to come in and say, this is the priority. This makes sense for us. This is what we should do. This is a global application that's going to scale across all of our sites or across 10 of our sites, right? And again, that kind of goes back to product ownership. That product owner needs to have a clear vision of what she wants to deliver, what he wants to do, and what his end users or what her product is going to deliver and make value for the company. So with that prioritization kind of already taken, off of IT's plate, when ops brings a requirement, we say, okay, hey, product owner, you're in America, so you should clearly work with the Americas COE. The Americas COE will help to staff a team, find available capacity, find those champions that can help develop the products, bring it to market, and we let them go forward.
Yeah, and talking about, enablement and, building a COE and your teams, how did you drive adoption across the organization? Obviously, yourself, before it was brought to you, you were kind of embedded in SAP, so how did you kind of do that with the rest of the team?
Yeah. So again, another kind of throwback to that partnership. Ops had a very good communication process with their own teams to say, hey, you should use this. And it wasn't, we tried, mass emails and a kind of a big shout outs to everybody, but I think it was the word of mouth, kind of one to few to many approach that worked best. We found the champions across the regions. They would deliver something. They would see value. They could talk to other people like, hey, I know you wanted to do this application that does workflow or does some sort of, tooling management, whatever it may be. Try Mendix, try following the standard process and see if it can work, right? And if you need help, we had the champions across the regions. We knew who we could go to, and they were able to, get success. And I think that success was then able to, help further our engagement, further our promotion of what we were trying to do. Oh, hey, that app went live. They did that at Mendix. How'd you do that? Oh, I went to this meeting on Tuesday. And suddenly our roster of Tuesday meetings starts filling up, and we were booked solid. We were doing two meetings a week on a Tuesday, to cover Asia, Europe and Americas. We were trying to talk to, 2 people per meeting, and we were booked solid for many weeks. And we still have those meetings, right? But now the regions are taking it forward. So we just continue that cycle of promotion, operations leading, prioritizing, and it works. So, let it go.
And sometimes, when organizations adopt low code, sometimes there'll be old school or not even old school, traditional devs or devs who just like doing it the way they used to. Did you have any, internal resistance? How did you, what lessons did you learn around upskilling, change management, and even, the internal kind of pushback, if there was any?
Yeah, I mean, we had some detractors. We had people that didn't want to try it, or like, this is too cookie cutter for us. I'm a traditional dev. And I guess you just have to kind of sort of go around those people, or just, it's fine for them to have that opinion. I think as we've broadened our approach or broadened our understanding of low code in general, and Mendix it is a technology that will work with all other existing technologies we have in-house, right? So it's not necessarily a silver bullet. We had a lot of that early on too. Oh, this is, it's not a silver bullet. Yeah, well, that's not necessarily what we're queuing it up to be. It's just another platform to enable our partners to develop ideas and deliver value. So, it works with our ERP system, right? It works with our human workforce system. It works with our incident tracking system, right? It works with our shop floor system. It will partner very well with these systems. You can do just about anything you want within reason. Again, follow our guidelines, follow our best practice. And through some of that promotion process, we started to change people's opinions. More people want to participate when they see success. And then, I think We probably could have done a better job early on in terms of like training plans or more focused learning paths on, well, once a person takes rapid application certification, we really need to get them involved in a project quickly.
Yeah.
That can be hard early on because you might not have that full portfolio of ideas to develop, right? But if we had done a little more work early on like learning paths and, upskilling people a little more in a more focused manner, we probably could have done things a little bit sooner, but I guess we're okay. Hindsight's 50-50 or 20-20, whatever it is.
Yeah. And, I'm interested to know for you personally, and there's this, about Mendex, low code in general, there's all this talk about anyone with a technology background can pick up the software and kind of get up to speed with it really fast, right? And they say usually someone senior already in traditional can come into low code and kind of stay at that level. Would you agree for yourself you were able to pick it up and get going pretty fast?
Yeah, I think, people with a traditional dev background that have an open mindset and are willing to try new things can absolutely just jump in and start cooking immediately. And it's just like, let them cook, they go, right? It's a very easy transition, right? And you can still keep your traditional, code set and skills, right? From a brand new non-IT perspective, it can take, up to 6 months before someone really starts to feel confident. We really ideally think that someone should be at like an intermediate certification level before they can really start developing on their own. So if we have new people that come in, we always try to pair them up with, one of the champions from the region or someone that has intermediate skill sets to help bolster them. Again, one to few, few to many. And then ideally that person that builds up to intermediate then can take that further with new people as well. So yes, it is possible. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, in the last few years, the hot topic is AI. Everyone's talking about AI. If it's not mentioned in the sentence, no one wants to listen. Can you tell me about how is the business leveraging AI alongside low code? Have you got anything planned or built already?
Yeah, so we have a couple of things that we're exploring. We've done a couple proof of concepts. Early on, we did a Mendix proof of concept where we connected to our incident management system just to see can we consolidate faster and find root causes quicker, ideally reducing downtime. We also connected, this was an easy one. We built a Mendix app to connect to our SharePoint site for all of our document repositories. So kind of like a silly chat bot where you can ask it like, hey, find me the template for the minimum viable business case. Find me the documentation on this project, right? And that worked. Now we're starting to look at how we can use Maya, right? Because Mendix with Maya is awesome. We have an architect out in India who's very interested in leveraging Maya and kind of pushing some of the internal Jabil, Mendix product teams on how can we do more, right? What else can Maya do for us? We've heard some very promising things with 11 being released now, and I really want to see where Maya takes us. Like, I think it would be great. It can build I think it can do a lot with our stories now, but maybe it can take like acceptance criteria. Maybe it can start to help us build test cases or even do some testing for us. It would be amazing. So we do have a lot of things kind of cooking in the AI workspace, and we're seeing where Mendix helps us, again, just deliver value faster and bring something to the market quicker with, built-in connectors and things. So it's very, very interesting. Very promising.
And it's great you spoke about, obviously, you've got a developer really interested, because when I spoke to a few people at Mendex, they always mention about, as much as their R&D team are building, customers come to them with solutions as well. Have you thought of this?
Yeah.
Have you thought of that? And it's your feedback that allows them to make their platform even better. They don't have to just rely on the internal team. They've got, an extended partnership, as you said, of developers, product owners, people who are kind of looking to push the platform to its limit.
Yeah. I think maybe 2 years ago, I think the Mendix AI product team met with our internal Jabil product team, or our AI team, to see, what use cases we were considering, where could we take that. That was pretty productive. But yeah, just Maya alone being built into, Studio Pro for a complete newbie and a seasoned developer. There's so much opportunity there to just, hey, build my domain model, right? Do these what used to seem like impossible tasks are really kind of like messy, yucky tasks that some people might not be very interested in. Now it just Maya will do it for you, and you can go focus where you need to focus or where your interest is.
Yeah, that's amazing. And they say, like, there's this whole conversation about, will AI kind of replace developers? But it's more and more about making them more productive, right? They can kind of, like you said, focus on more interesting things and kind of not be doing all the repetitive tasks all the time.
Yeah, it's how can this new tool, how can AI help you as a person be more productive, whether it's developing, making a comparison between vendors. I mean, there's so much opportunity now. Hey, summarize this, 30-page deck and give me the takeaways that I can go, spit out to the COE, spit out to my executive leadership, whoever it may be, right? I don't know. I guess maybe one day, Wade in the future, but it could replace people. I don't know. But right now it's
Does,
just, there's so much additional productivity, so much add for people that are involved with low code. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah. And, there's this, obviously low code, I think is, especially if you look at 4 years ago when you started to now, it's evolving. It's much well known, especially in the Americas. I think it's growing quite a lot. Mendix is better known as well. Obviously, the Siemens brand has helped it grow as well because of that kind of partnership, and there's when I speak to kind of people at Mendix and when they're speaking to customers, they might not always have everyone within a business who's interested in low code, right? So what advice would you give to leaders, trying to get executive buy-in for Mendix or any kind of low code initiative for their business?
I think you can't ever stop communicating, right? You always have to focus on your key vision, whatever, okay. So for us, it was faster speed to market and delivering value, right? However you define value, you got to make sure you understand how your executives or your stakeholders define value, right? And if you can align to that and continue to keep communicating and keep that conversation open, show continuous growth. And hey, we have one application in the portfolio. We have 7, we have 14, showing that growth, showing that journey, tracking that value, make KPI based on how many things you're delivering, tracking how long it takes to deliver apps to production, how long it takes to do testing in UAT or stage, right? The more information you can bring to your stakeholders to show that you're hitting your goals, you're meeting your vision, I think the better off you'll be, right? And if you can have, depending where you're coming from, if you can have an operational partner or if you can have an IT partner that's with you in lockstep along the way, that's only going to further your business case and your, value realization. And I think at some point you get to critical mass where they can't ignore you any longer. Like you're delivering things, you're making life easier for people, you're delivering apps that are more productive or bring more production value to people. It becomes much more difficult to ignore if you continuously communicate, impactful numbers and impactful stories.
Yeah, definitely. And now you've been kind of on this 4-year journey with Mendix, and obviously you learn a lot in that time, highs, lows, if you could, knowing what you know now, if you could go back and you started again, what would you do differently?
Well, I would love to have that opportunity to do more focused training plans, get people more aligned to a learning journey, right? And this is something we worked closely with Mendix on early on. It's like, Academy is great. Mendix Academy is great. It's free to use. There's a lot of valuable content, but we want to see more, right? More content on, intermediate level concepts and ideas, domain models, or more about microflows, more detailed information about debugging, right? If we could have more content, more structured learning plans for people to upskill, not necessarily faster, but more in a more useful manner, right? Like, some of the feedback we got was like, there are too many breadcrumbs at a certain point and it's hard to take that back, right? And if if you've got someone who has a full-time job and they're trying to learn Mendex on top of that full-time job, they don't have time to take the breadcrumbs and kind of draw the lines or connect the dots. It's like a little more content that could help people in a more thoughtful, meaningful manner become enabled. Or you have that challenge of you have all these learners, you have all these opportunities of people that want to do it, but you don't have a portfolio robust enough with enough ideas to start taking forward. That can be hard too, because people are going to get tired of building the training applications. Here's my first calendar. Here's my first, hello world app. Like being able to have a portfolio of robust ideas that are going to deliver value with that, very skilled, diverse set of people that are interested and hopeful about this would have been, an interesting thing to have back then. I mean, I'm not going to say it would have changed a whole lot. I think we're all very happy where we are, but it would have been interesting to see, how we could have leveraged those people faster, more effectively, right? Would that change the numbers? Would it be at 200 applications? I don't know. So at some point, you think you got to start to app rationalize too. You don't want to put too much that's out there. And, is it really delivering value? You got to have a kind of a thoughtful conversation, but.
Yeah, even from our perspective on the enablement side, we've found, especially when organizations are getting traditional developers to switch over, if that initial phase of training and enablement isn't on point, there's a higher dropout rate of actually, you know what, I'm gonna leave and continue doing what I'm doing. So that early stage is really critical to getting them bought into the technology.
Yes.
And be excited. If they're not trained properly, they won't be, right?
Yeah, it's like training, but what's that next step? It's like enablement. You have to have something that takes the training, puts it into effect. We call it enablement. Like if someone is enabled, they've taken the training, they have the minimum level of certification, and they have participated in a project, hands on keyboard. Maybe they didn't even develop, right? But they were involved in the agile process. They saw how the ideas came about. They talked about the backlog. They saw the vision. They did the vision board. They talked to the product owner. They did the testing. They were involved. They were active. They see how an idea goes from idea all the way to delivery. And that's impactful and valuable for people.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I appreciate you speaking to me, Kevin. There was great insights, and to hear your journey with Jabil, what you've done so far, and I look forward to seeing what else you'll have coming up, in the future, and maybe we can do this again. Like we said, maybe in person somewhere. We'll do it next time. It'd be great to kind of do it in a studio and kind of see, especially with AI and the way things are kind of moving. When you've got a few more use cases, it'd be great to kind of dive a bit deeper into that as well.
Yeah, next time I want to have one of those boom mics and I say, hey guys, welcome to the cast. I'll practice my intro for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Amazing. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for having me for us. Best of luck.
It was a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.